All right, look, chapter 996, bro. Look, I didn't do a video last week because technical difficulties. Basically, I'm not going to explain it any more than that. So, cover art. Blackbeard and a hippo brushing their teeth together. I thought that was cool. I didn't think it was as cool as last week as first, but the more I thought about it, I thought about when we first met Blackbeard with Luffy and the crew and everything. And, you know, Blackbeard kind of seemed like this, I won't say innocent guy, but, you know, like more harmless guy. Especially Blackbeard compared to Bellamy at the time, right? So it kind of reminded me of that as well. So that was kind of different to see because, you know, we pretty much hate Blackbeard now. It's kind of like a Kainu #1 and then Blackbeard 2, a very close second, but that's, you know, the case for the villains that get the most hate. So chapter begins, we see Tama show up from the last chapter and she has the baboon trying to hold them off. To me, when I saw the baboon trying to hold them off, it was basically like, yo, like they're done. At this point, you know, they're probably gonna have to try to escape now and regroup. That's basically, it's a very dense chapter, but I feel like there's not much to talk about, at least until the end. So I'm kind of just getting through stuff for the most part. So, like I said, when we see the baboon and like we see the condition of Usopp and the condition of Nami, and I spoke about it, when we saw Nami all bruised and bloodied up like that, like we've never seen her like that. We've seen her get slapped and everything and seen her in terrible situations, but we never actually seen her like beat and like bloody. I don't think we've ever even seen Nami have any blood besides when she like, you know, was trying to like carve out her tattoo from Arlong Park. I don't ever think we've seen Nami bleed. It could be wrong, but especially like that. So I feel like once we saw that, it was like, okay, either things quickly shift in their favor or they're gonna have to try to escape. And it's looking more like now they're gonna have to try to escape and regroup, especially when we get to the end of the chapter. We'll get to that as well. I feel like at this point, the more allies are coming more as like, this is going to be a sensible way for them to escape more than this is going to be a way for the raid on Onigashima to be successful. That's what it seems like it's leaning more towards. We get a hint of Yamato's power, very much like Kaido with the, you know, kind of like Spike Bat, which we kind of figured out, you know, when we saw that she's going to have like similar power. Makes sense. So she's going to have a lot of her father's strength. And we see this arrow technique. I don't know if it's a devil fruit power or maybe it's like kind of how Zoro uses his sword. Maybe along that line where how we see these sword users. And in One Piece, you know, it kind of like uses their sword as an extension of energy and force. So maybe that could have been what she was doing. But we will see everything. I don't know if she's a devil fruit power user yet. It would make sense if she is, and then, you know, what type of devil fruit she has because of the handcuffs. So that would kind of make sense. You know, that would be a way for her to stay weakened. So, you know, it's kind of like more, you know, obvious that she is a devil fruit user, but you never know. Until later in the chapter, and it's like, okay. Yeah. But like I said, a lot of these things I know will get explained later. This is a very, very dense chapter. By the time we got to Law and Robin, I legit thought the chapter was going to be over as I was reading it, because there were so many panels before, right? So I was also confused in this aspect because I know Law and Robin are wearing, you know, like basically Robin's in her geisha outfit and Law's in his samurai outfit. So when I first saw this, I was confused, and especially since we see Robin later in the chapter. So I was like, is this a flashback? And if this is a flashback, like where is it? And this is, it kind of feels like these last several chapters, especially Oda is relying somewhat, if not heavily, on the anime to portray certain things better. And I know that was one of the things said when the Wano arc first began, is that it seems like that anime is going to be heavily relied on as far as, hey, but, you know, this is this, but more dragged out and more explained. And I felt like that with the Law Robin flashback. I know a lot of people aren't talking about it as much, but that's just my feeling. And then as I read it a second time, we see Law is like very much underneath the castle, and he found the robe poneglyph. and he knocks out one of Kaido's men, and he's reading the poneglyph. He has a flashback to Corazon. Then he has a flashback to when him and Robin were talking. Okay, this is what I would think. Us seeing Law down there with the poneglyphs, with everything going on, is basically confirmation. They are going to have to dip soon. Kind of like how Big Mom, when Brooke got the road poneglyphs, got just poneglyphs in general, not just the road. When Brooke got the poneglyphs, was able to scribble them, I think that's going to be with Law. And Law is probably going to use his room to get in on the ship and everything, right, for the poneglyphs. And this raid could be one big smoke screen too for the Straw Hats. All right, so then we see Half Kid and Killer. We see Killer get knocked out, right? And then we see Kid be like, hey, do you think you have enough do we have enough for Kaido? And the Killer says, I don't think you can never have enough for Kaido. And then we basically flash forward. There's really none, so obviously that's another setup. So then we skip to the 9 Scabbards who are basically getting their ass kicked. It's over, the fight's over. We see Kaido, he's pretty much like over it. And then Big Mom also makes her way towards there. Once those two show up, even if Luffy and the gang show up, it's over. Which is, again, I think this is Oda's way. People need to realize how Oda writes. This is basically confirmation, Big Mom showing up, like, this is going to be over. Because it can be the whole army there. If Kaido and Big Mom are in the same place at the same time, nobody in this raid is beating them. Probably only 2 other people in the world are beating. Shanks and Blackbeard, along with their fleet. And Luffy's, that is the only chance they have to beat them. And even that, we don't know, because, you know, Kaido and Big Mom are known as like the strongest pirates. And they say Kaido is the strongest pirate. And we know more like we're talking about like just pure physical strength. Like we've seen these two are basically unhittable. Especially Big Mom. Big Mom is basically indestructible. And we learn Big Mom is indestructible, right? Like, we've seen with Big Mom, she basically has like a shield around her. So we're gonna see how that lines up more. Also, it's Act 3. So Act 3 feels like it's about to ending. So we know this is a 5-act structure. And with the end of Act 3 is obviously the middle point. So you got the first 2 acts. Act 3 is gonna act as the middle. Maybe in the middle of Act 4, 2, stuff will start back up again. But obviously this is the middle, and Act 3 is by far the longest. The raid is not going to end well. I feel like for it to be in the middle, literally in the middle of everything, I feel like this is the halfway point, which is crazy to think about, right? Because that means towards the end of Act 4 and Act 5 is going to be even crazier than this. And we're probably another year or 2 away from Wano even ending. Because what I said, 5 years, right? And I feel like that's why his chapters are getting more and more dense and packed, because he knows he's trying to end this soon, but he has so much more to how they're going to go back to the drawing board and what's going to come into play, because we know what's going on in the outside world too. And I don't know if that's going to play into Wano, but that's another thing. There's a lot of setup for after Wano. And we still have, you know, we're basically halfway there. We're halfway through Wano after all this time. We're only halfway through. It's going to be by far the longest arcs. Then we get to the end after Big Mom shows up and everything, and then Luffy says, don't you hear that singing? And I understand a lot of the first translations were super loose, which is why I like to take my time and have the official ones come out instead of trying to be first and then upload stuff. Trying to upload stuff first, because a lot of stuff does get lost. So basically Sanji hears some freaky stuff happening with a girl or with a woman. We have no idea who this woman is. There's a lot of speculation and everything. Maybe it is somebody we've met before, maybe it's not. Oda's always introducing new characters, especially in Wano. And people need to keep in mind we're only halfway through. So this can very well be a new person we've never met. I can't imagine it being anybody we have met, because think about the woman we've met in Wano. Basically Kinemon's wife, and that's it. And Hiyori, and that's basically been it. And I can't imagine Hiyori coming back in this instance when everybody thinks she's dead. So I think it's somebody we've never met, and it's another new character being introduced. Maybe somebody who will play another key role down the line. Because even if it is, I can only think of it being her. Like, who else could it be? If it's neither her, then who else could it be? So that's why I think it's just simply a new person. Maybe somebody Sanji's in love with, or by a long shot, I think the only other person it could be is Pudding, but that's like a long shot. You know, maybe like Pudding showed up with the Big Mom Pirates, and yeah, Pudding is very long shot, but I'll give this chapter an 8.7 out of 10. I feel like there's a lot more to talk about when it comes to it, so I'm gonna elaborate more on that later. And I may make another video for it, so look out for that. All right, y'all. Peace.